We need to interact with this material for self-healing. And I've recently been motivated to do another video on how to work with, identify, and function with the higher self for self-healing, the higher awareness, the higher being that we have. And that is incredibly important. That is very key. And I've always avoided that in the videos because it kind of goes a different direction. There's finding the material I found the material. I want everybody to see it, and it's hard to see. But when you find the material, it is there for interacting, for self-healing. And I think a lot of people are like, yeah, can we just go there and do that? And I agree. There's a lot to this, and I wish I could have more people on board understanding it, but that's just going to have to grow. My name is Dan Paulson. Everyone, welcome to the video. And a friend of mine has got some things going on and said, yeah, can you maybe cover this more? We got a lot of mental health issues and things like that. And this is exactly right. But okay, here's what I want to say to start with. This is not going to be fast. For everybody who starts listening and goes, man, buddy, you can't get to the point in 10 minutes. I don't think you know what you're talking about. What I'm going to say is this. We live with modern day biases that are incredibly it puts us so out of touch with what they were doing, we can't see it. This was their life. They didn't spend 5 or 10 minutes with it. They spent their lifetimes with it. Giving it 5 or 10 minutes means you're never going to see it. This is something they were doing thousands of years ago, pre-media, pre all of the things that we have going on, where they're walking, they're not listening to radios. There is no media. Their stories are it. This is their media. We can't give it 5 or 10 minutes and say, yeah, that's it. It's a boring, dumb story. There's something in here, but it takes work to find it. This right here is a big filter. You're going to drop incredible amounts of people right here. Okay, let's talk about what we have to do. I want to start far back. Let's do this. We have a problem to solve. What is the problem? I don't feel good. Life is not okay. That's my problem. How do I resolve it? The first thing we have to do is understand how we came about. The more we understand what we have to work with, the more we understand how it works, how it functions, the more we can interact with it to affect a change with it. If something needs to be repaired and you don't know what's broken to get it working, you can't. Yeah, and you don't know how it works, but you need, you see what I mean here. It's the same kind of a process, except it's happening in the mind, that there is something that is not right and we don't understand what it is, and we want to understand it. We can look around and see some people's lives are okay and some are not. What happened? What's the difference? How do we get from here to there? What happened? So we have a brain and malleability, and we need to start with that right there. And I will tell you why. That is how we experience life, through mental processes and our mental experiences. That is where we go. We're not going to go to any place supernatural. We're going to go to someplace very natural that we can see. This is where we lose many, many, many more people. Now you turn inward and see what is stored up here and stop looking out there. Yeah, those experiences are happening, and they keep doing this and doing this, but you keep fitting with it. This is what is in the hub of your wheel that's going around and around that we need to extract. That one's from the Buddha. If you know the Gospel of Thomas, you know if you know that the strong man is coming to wreck your house, prepare and get ready. This is letting us know, yeah, we've got cyclical things coming, and we're at a point where we recognize them. We're going to start doing something about it. We've gotten to that point. Yeah, there's very few of us at this point. Okay, we know that the brain is malleable. We start not even knowing anything, being unaware. We learn gradually. At some point, we don't know how to drive, or if you don't know how to drive, some other trade, some hobbies, things like that. And we know that by practicing and practicing, at first you have to focus on everything that happens, every step along the way. And at some point, you've done it so much now that it's wired in. It's happening in the background. Now you're driving down the road or cross country, talking to your friends and hitting exits and stopping for gas and all that stuff. Everything is happening just fine. We now have that established. The brain grew. It's malleable. However, what happens if something needs to be changed? Can we forget how to do things? And certainly that can happen. But what we're talking about here is how to take something that is wired in place and change it. Can that happen? That's the kind of malleability we're looking at. And we do see examples of that. We know we can do that. There might be times where we're convinced of something. yeah, those people I've heard and I saw an example on TV of this. So yeah, everybody's telling me those people are this way. So I know that. Yeah, those people are that way. I can see the evidence of it. And you begin to believe that. Later on, you, for some reason, meet up with these people in some different circumstances, and they're fine people, and you have lunch and things like that. And only later you learn, oh, you're those people I'm supposed to hate. You're just like me. Well, that's pretty bizarre. Right there, the brain malleability is coming into play right there. We're starting to change our mind and going, oh, I see something that is not right, that I used to believe, that I no longer believe. I'm going to change the way I experience that in the future. Right there, we're changing up the way our brain works. So that's what we're going to be working with right there. We're going to go find things that are hurting us, and we're going to manipulate the way that they are. That is what is going to heal us. We have to get to a point where we were prior to the hurt. When we understand how it came about and the mechanics of it, the mechanisms of it, we can interact with it much more directly. But it's a brain wiring process. It's an organic wiring process, and it will take time. Our lives are different than their lives were. They could spend all day working with this healing. How long do we spend each day working with it? We need to understand that. We're living in different times. It becomes important when they talk about gurus, being alone, finding isolation, getting away, fasting is to the world. All of those letting us know that you need to pull away from things. And that's exactly right, because whatever we're seeing and experiencing in life, we're continuing to grow and mold towards. If you don't like it, you got to let it go. I go get on, some headlines right now or something, and I got a real problem with the right-wing religious sort of, I'm marching with the Bible. That's all I need. And you're like, oh my freaking God, this is not even thinking anymore. And then it's cherry-picked, and what really is emerging is I'm using the Bible to justify legislation based on my inner fears and shame that I can't resolve. And a belief in something that is, oh yeah, this is just, okay, stop right there. See what I just did? I went to the world and I went, oh, getting freaked out by it. I got to get away from that because my brain feels that way. I then fit into whatever the collective is, I am now fit. I'm a part of a bigger system of feelings that I am connecting with on an emotional level that I'm not quite aware of. We know that emotional thing is there through getting together and having experiences sometimes that are so uplifting that you're like, oh my gosh, what is this? I don't feel this on my own. I feel it in the presence of somebody else and some kind of an experience. Religious people do that, or many, many things. I've had that experience. Oh, I get it quite a bit. Connecting with people at a very high level. Ooh, yeah, you feel good. We know that emotional connection is there, and as we are not paying attention, it's still there. We will pay attention and go, that feeling is good, I like that, but we don't pay attention when we're in protesting and doing things and getting caught up into that, and the same thing is happening, but in the other direction. We have to fast as to the world. There are fields of emotional energy out there that we connect with, we fit with, and we just have to know that what we're holding up here that is of that emotional similarity, the frequency of it. And that means, it's shame, it's hatred, it's judgment, it's somehow something that fits with other people. Very similar things. We group up. We need to get away from that in order to heal from it. No ifs, ands, or buts. They didn't live like we do. Can we even do that? Can we get to where they are? And they might have had you got 20 things to work out. Today, we got 20 things an hour to work out. Life comes at us so fast, we take on more than we give off. We have to disconnect to do this healing. We got to let go of the things in the world that are about ready to destroy us because people refuse to understand what evolution is. They don't have the strength or the courage to face the truth. They maintain supernatural beliefs. See, here I go into, I got to pull away from that. That's not good. You see how it works. I'm sure everybody's like that. Look at your own life. When you're doing things that are like, oh, this makes me happy. Focus on doing that. When you're doing things or experiencing things that are not, find a way to get rid of that. The trees that are growing up out of season that don't produce good figs, so you chop it down. That's it right there. These are the things that are happening that they're keeping you from fasting as to the world. You need your time. People will try to take it from you. No, stay here. I need you. You owe me you something. People are going to do that. You got to get away if you want to heal. Seriously. Okay. Then you ask yourself, what is the practicality of that? So I'm going pretty extreme here in description. Can we pull back from it? What can we do today? It's really understanding, number one, yeah, I see what they were doing and I see what we're facing. Let's see if we can manage it. All right. So I'll do my best to free up the time that I have. But here's something else that I become aware of. That we adjust. I'll put it that way. We adjust to our experiences. When we're little kids, we don't have memories and experiences yet. But as we begin to develop enough and begin to accumulate those, we begin to become products of those experiences and the way that we're holding the emotions of it. If you were raised somewhere that was just loving and caring and, you were given all kinds of opportunity to learn and make your own choices, you're going to be one kind of a person. If you were beaten down and told you're a worthless, stupid kid, do this, do as I say, you're going to be a completely different kind of person. And it's not because you were born that way. It's because you were made that way after you were born. We became wired that way. Those became our core wiring for how we're going to operate in life. That is how we learned, and that is how we're going to operate from. And when we know that, we begin to understand that that is the broken part. This is the defective part that we need to address. Now, it has all kinds of things with it that the way it sits in our mind, all of the stuff, all of the confusion creates feelings and glands that give off chemicals that make us feel depressed and confused and hurt and angry, all kinds of things we're feeling. All of these turmoil, mixed emotions comes from that mass of stuff up there. And think of what it's going to take to sort through that. How much stuff is up there? There's no way to just go, oh, I'm going to let that go. Here's what we need to do, though, is find ways to begin to look at ourselves from other than this perception right here. We live through that personal experience, but we need to know that this higher self that we all have is what we're all going to go to work with. We all exist together in this higher place. We can't see each other, but this is where we come from. This is the universe. This is the base. This is where the cause and effect and cycles come from, because that's how the universe works. We're not going to be anything different. We will not violate the laws. We will function within that. And that's what's happening here. Cycles of something repeating based on the cause, based on what we're holding, based on the perception of the memory, based on I got molested and I feel shame and hatred based on that right there. That's the seed. That's what's in my hub that keeps coming around and hurting my life or yours. Fill in the blank. There's many. I picked one easy and common that probably happens to a lot of people that they can't get over because it's so intense in their minds. Okay, do you see how that works? Which means that within my own mind, I know I've got something that is hurting me, but I don't want it out because I'm so afraid and so ashamed that I have built up walls that I can no longer overcome. Now, where does that come from? Why is it? Why is it that fearful? Seriously, why is it that fearful? People will kill others over that shame and never admit to it, and always call somebody else the problem when you can see what's happening. There's a point where cause and effect is different. When you're seeing that mother, that beating her kid in the store because the child knocked something off a shelf accidentally and she's yelling, "What is stupid kid?" Do you see a bad mother, or do you see a mother that one time was a little child that was being beat by parents being told what a stupid kid she is? Do you see a system in place, or do you see one isolated incident? Do you wire to the cause, or do you see the effect? At some point, we're seeing the effect and we're no longer caught up in the cause, and we have sympathy for the entire situation and not just that one. You realize it's bigger and that we're all products of that, and we're working from that. We are the same. We're functioning through what we were given. Okay, so there we are. We've got that. We've identified the problem. Of course, to each person, it's individual. When it comes time to using the material, there is nobody that you sit and listen to, and when you get done listening to them, you're better. That doesn't work. when it comes down to the core material and the template, it's only used by going into one's own mind. It's a trip that only the individual can take for themselves, and they will only do it to the degree that they want to. Gospel of Philip, you Nag Hammadi fans, Jesus went in and cleaned out the whole place while others did it only partially. This is the place. Okay. What next? What is actually there is an event. Something happened. And then there was a perception that grew from that. It might not even been intense at the time, depending on what was happening. It could have been confusion. I don't know what's going on. And then later it starts, other things come into play. It starts off as an event that grows bigger and bigger until it's this monstrous hatred thing that is grown from an event that it comes from a mental perception from something that happened to us that we had no control over, or maybe we were the perpetrator, but you look back and go, I don't know why I did that. I have problems with my early beginnings. We need to understand where we come from, where we evolve from. This is where we step back and take another look at things, where we start stepping outside of ourselves. Right now, when we're experiencing the feelings of that, we're living through the consciousness, and the inner being is what is driving our lives, not the higher self. The higher self is going to be outside of the emotions. Typically, we live through the emotional state, though, not knowing that that is what is there. All right, one of the things to talk about is fear. This is evolutionary. If you go out and spend time in nature and just watch animals and things like that and watch them long enough seasonally, and not just watching bunnies hop around and eat or fish or something like that, but watch long enough to see that they're living off of each other, to see that they're part of a food chain, to see that a raptor might be hauling off a bunny that's trying to escape, it's going to take it to its nest and rip it apart and eat it. But that bunny desperately tries to run. In an evolutionary process, if there is not incredible fear and incredible joy, there's not going to be this drive back and forth to perpetuate anything. Wanting to perpetuate and having a good experience over that is something that drives us to continue to procreate. At the same time, incredible fear drives us to escape. If you didn't have fear, you would stand there while the lion ate you, going, ouch, this hurts, I should have ran away. It's kind of funny to think about, but you go, yeah, fear is incredibly important, and that's where it came from. Oh my God, I am going to die. Now that is the evolved mechanism for our body to tell us when you feel shame or fear over something, that's what comes into play. It feels like a lion's going to eat you. Well, maybe not. There's something in there, though, that makes it too intense. Some people would be able to look at something like that and go, yeah, it happened. We're kids, We do stupid stuff. Now we're grown up and we're okay. Other people grow up going, oh my God, I am so ashamed. I'm a sinner. I'm a dirty, filthy little piece of crap. Now I'm going to hate everybody for doing the same thing. And something else comes into play. This is where we see the cause and effect and understand what it means to see the thistles coming out of someone's garden, or having aught not resolved against one's brother. All of that, we can see that. We're trying to escape that. Okay, so when we're starting out, it's very difficult to shift out of the experience of ourselves, of our inner being, of our memories, of our perceptions, and get into the higher self, which is what we have to do in order to begin working on what we're doing. We have to get ourselves out of the sensation of the emotions in order to look at them. The human gets used to things. Look at what is going on in the world right now. Let's not attach to it, but you can see how outlandish things get. There's a point in time where things that are happening in politics today would not have been tolerated by either side of the political spectrum 20 years ago. It would be like, what? No way. Next time, it's going to get worse. It's going to continue to escalate. People get used to stuff and they just operate that way. They get wired that way and they don't even get out of it. They're functioning in a crowd calling themselves free thinkers. Meanwhile, from the outside, you can see that it's like actually an organism. It's not a bunch of people gathered together. On some core level, but it's something different as well. Okay, maybe a better way to talk about it would be this. Think of something that's happened in your life that was incredibly devastating, that you can look back on now, and it might still not be okay, but you're okay. You can live with it. I'm not talking about the times that, like maybe you've had a divorce and you're like, oh my God, that was the best thing. I feel so good. But there's hurt, there's something, there's bitterness, there's something that is left in place. That at some point we go on day to day and we can put that away somehow. It isn't resolved, but it's put away, and we're not experiencing it at the same daily level. We gradually adjust to it. But what happens is that creates conditions for more to occur. We begin to accumulate more of the same sort of thing left unresolved, and it continues to grow and to escalate. But we get used to it. There was a point in time we were very happy and light. When you feel something like that happen, it feels like you're carrying a burden. You get used to that. And you have something else happen and you're carrying a burden. Life is starting to get not okay. It really isn't. You don't feel all right, but you don't necessarily feel weighted all the time. When you let something off, when you say, here's something that happened one time and I've just got to get it off my chest. I need to get this. I need to let it out. It's trapped inside of me and it's hurting me. I know I just have to expose it. And you do that and somebody goes, oh, that's okay, man. You're good. I love you. You will feel so good. It'll be like something, you will have a physiological feeling as if something was lifted off of you that is opposite the feeling of the weight that was put on when it first happened. You will feel it beginning to come off if you're taking it off. But after depending on how big it is, how significant, it might be like a little thing. You feel good for a little while. When I finally told somebody that I had been molested, it was like 2 weeks, it seemed like, before I felt like I could feel the ground under my feet. I was so uplifted by just being free of it. I still had work to do on it, but just by unburdening myself from it was a significant thing. You will see that if it's effective, you'll have physiological responses that you can use to evaluate your own success. And it's all based in emotion. It's based on the way we feel about things, and it's based on the way you feel about things. It's not about the event. If something happened that two people can have the same experience. One's okay with it. One is devastated by it. It doesn't matter what happened. What matters is what you are holding up here that hurts you, how you are holding it. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. Maybe somebody stole something one time and they feel like totally guilty about it, and somebody else stole something and they owed it to me anyway. They feel okay with it. It isn't about what happened. It's about how you feel about it, how it hurts you, how it affects you. So it's very individual that way. It becomes very, very private, although you do need to be able to be free of it. So one of the things that I would suggest that we can do today, I thought of this before, would be like maybe taking something that you have that's an issue of yours, and you go off someplace quiet and private, and you record it. Record yourself. Record a message or something like that. It might be difficult. There's times I had stuff in the past that I couldn't get through without just bawling. I couldn't even say it. It was tough. But do that. Make the recording of something you need to resolve. Then start privately viewing it. If you were to do something like watch a mountain climber up on a very high precipice or something, and they're just in this very precarious position, and you can see the exposure is high and they're thousands of feet up above the air. You can sit there while you're watching that and actually get sweaty palms and things like that. You're having a physiological response from the brain based on input. You're not even having the experience, but it's as if you are. You can experience that. We want to employ that mechanism right there. We want to take something. If you were to watch that video over and over again of that person, eventually you would get used to it and your palms would stop sweating. We get used to it. We need to look at the things that we don't want to look at. We've made them strong by hiding them and putting them away, and we can weaken them by beginning to expose them. Look at them. Yeah. Expose it. That's it. It dies off if you expose it. Gospel of Philip again. The intestines of a man, when they come out, he dies. So it is with, the pain, the shame, hurt, whatever it is in the world. I don't recall that one. I'm going to paraphrase. But if you know the material. One What we want to do is actually take the things that we don't want to deal with and actually look at them. We have been conditioned to fear them because the fear is great. We don't talk about it. What we need to do is look at them and go, oh, what am I afraid of this for? Let me talk to people who are trustworthy, and that's the issue. Because if these are very emotionally deep, you talk to the wrong person, and you're going to touch their fears. They might angrily lash out at you. You have to talk to the right person who's like, yeah, guess what? Same thing happened to me. I'm good with you. Yeah, you have to have the right kind of person you're talking with. If you're trying to resolve something and you tell somebody, I'm sorry I did this, and I mean, if you're genuine and they don't forgive you, that's okay. You still have to do your part. But in being able to communicate this, that's a yardstick. Okay, I took care of it. I feel better now. Yeah, what is it? I'm not going to tell you. I don't want to tell you. It's not healed. It should be able to be something that's a matter of fact. The sky is blue. This tastes good. Yeah, I got molested, or I molested somebody, or I got raped, or I raped somebody, or I stole something, or I did this or that, or I was told this. All of these things that if you can look at them and go, oh, yeah, that hurts, those are issues. When you bring them up and recall them and look at the emotional quality of them and how they make you feel, those are the things we need to look at. And if you were to make that video and just keep watching it over and over again, you would become accustomed to it. That would make it easier. But it's also good to know, very much so, that we're part of an organism called humanity. We think of ourselves as one little single individual down here that fits into this because that's the way our minds are. But when we get into the higher self, and I'll post a link to the video below, that's that part of us that can look at things from a detached perspective. We can all get there. Early in the morning, wake up, you got these turmoil in your head, you're experiencing it, you're hurting, your head is swimming, and there's a part of you that keeps stepping in once in a while going, let it go. You got to go to sleep. It's going to be all right. Then you slip right back into it. That right there is the higher self trying to get in. We need to know that and recognize that. The conscious not knowing that allows the stronger feelings and the emotions to take over. So what we're going to have to do is understand that the emotions are going to be something that's going to want to shut us down, but that the conscious is going to have to know that and go, okay, I recognize that I've been allowing the emotions to win. Now I have to work with the higher being and go ahead and let that emotion come out. I've got to look at it. I've got to bring it out. I've got to look at it until it doesn't hurt me anymore. I've got to talk about it until it doesn't hurt me anymore. Then I'm healed from it. That's a big job. But in doing so, we're also employing the neuroplasticity of the brain. We're taking those events and realizing that where I came from was part of a system. Actually, a better way to say it is we can't do the work from a victim mode status. We can't. We can work with people while we're in victim mode. If you went to a psychologist and started working through, the psychologist is playing the higher self while you are operating through the emotions. What we're doing in this process is we're employing our own higher self instead of the psychologist. So not many people are going to do that, but that's exactly what the process is: talking things out until they're okay. Then they're not burdening you anymore. We're doing it we're doing it in our own minds. Be careful. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just teaching what the material shows. What we are doing here is burning offerings to God. We're taking something of the physical world and it's going up in smoke. We're sending it to a higher place. But we're doing so by changing its form from one thing to another. We have to change the perception. That shame is what has to go. The hatred has to go. Whatever, the event can't change. The way we feel about it has to change. And that changes by emerging it and not looking at it. The way it feels is the way we assign it. So what we have to do is practice looking at life from the higher self. This is where being detached is good. Maybe you're in a place where you can't get away. You might have to put on if you put on some kind of visual device or something that just shuts out your surroundings, it's as if you're not there. Go there with your brain. Go into the wilderness if you're living in the city. Find a way to do that if you can. Maybe it's just do it in your imagination. If you have places where you can get off by yourself someplace, that would be ideal. I have those. That's what I do. So my practices often was to just sitting there and realizing I have these feelings, but I can I feel this perception place. Yes, I can get out here and see it. Ooh, I would practice getting into that mindset. And it was hard. You slip back into the feelings often, but I would just go back and forth. And it's like, whatever you work towards is what you get. We want the one sheep, the one fish. We're trying to get rid of everything else. But we're going to have to use the higher self to look at things, because it will allow things to emerge without the conscious saying, it's too painful, I'm going to shut it down and not emerge it. While the higher self is saying, no, I'm here, bring it out, bring it out, bring it out. And the conscious is going to be going, oh my God, I don't like this. But as you continue to do it, what they're doing is playing through this, like if you're watching the video where eventually it doesn't hurt, the physiological response is gone. They're doing it, they're playing that same thing out in the mind. We can do it with visual devices. So if you were to program something into your phone and you just watch it for yourself and you use that, you employ that, and you measure yourself and the success of your healing by watching something until you get used to it and you can talk about it, that might be an option. We're isolated. We're trying to come up with ideas. I know that they are doing this in the mind. That's exactly what you're doing. You're looking at the event. Eventually, what you're doing is you're looking at the situation that happened. You're experiencing it as yourself. You're experiencing it as the other person. You're experiencing it as a third person. You're doing a variety of things, watching that event over and over again until you go, yeah. But you also step back often and look at planet Earth from the moon and realize, whew, I emerge in a mess down there. Look at what's going on. Look at the animals. Look at the humans emerging. Look at what they do. Look at how they live. I'm emerging from that. How wonderful. Here I am beating myself up because I can't figure out life, and I'm down there as this poor little self, when you need to be going, man, I'm out here actually. Yeah, that experience down there, that physical experience, that's from that egg down there. I realize that, and that's what the feeling is. But from out here, I can see that down there, what I'm holding on to when I'm in that experience is petty. And it's common, and we're all in there. And we're trying to escape. And the only way out is to let go of the things that we're holding on to. This is the eye, the mote. This is what we can't see through this. Life experience comes from the cosmos, that we're in our physical life, whatever we're producing, the energy it requires to produce our life comes from the cosmos, from someplace, whatever. But it comes through the perceptions of our life experiences. So we continue to have life experiences along those lines. And what we're trying to do is to interact with those feelings to the point that they are no longer of the nature that they are. Hurt, shame, pain, anger, that kind of stuff. We don't want to be harboring those kind of things, because when we do, they continue to cause our experience to be along the same lines of what we're harboring. We need to employ the neuroplasticity of the brain by changing the way we feel about that, by realizing, you know what, I'm part of a process of cause and effect, and nobody picked on me. I need to get out of that. I am one of billions, trillions. I am one of many, many, many. Can I grow above that? Once we start thinking through in ways like that, we start leaving our hurt victim status behind a little bit more. We start looking at ourselves and going, yeah, you can be bigger than that. I feel that hurt. I definitely do. God, I do. Can I step out of it? And as you start making progress and doing little bits and pieces at a time, it gives you a foothold into the process and what to do and the healing. And it's easy to continue after it. There was a point in time where I would feel like, oh, well, something is not good. Something's ready to emerge. I began to recognize that. And I began at some point, this was not early on, but somewhere years into my process of self-healing, where I'm anxiously waiting for the next thing to come up that isn't okay so I can heal it. That was kind of weird. And there's still stuff that comes up, to be truthful. It's life still goes on. There's no point where you just magically go, oh, everything is wonderful and life is okay and there's nothing at all to worry about. That's not reality. I'm not sleeping on the streets and waking up in my vomit these days. So life is a lot different than it started out. All of the things that I had to deal with from, abuse of the childhood and run away and living on the streets and all that sort of stuff were parts of my past that I had to work through, that I had to go look at, that I had to go address, and that I had to realize, phew, you know what? I'm that little kid, but I'm more than that. There's something out here that's bigger than that little boy, and I need to let those experiences heal so that I'm not continuing to experience those for my entire life. And that changed my life. It did. I took the path. I'm still taking the path. The path never stops. Anyway, okay, what else can I cover here? Honestly, it's my first video of this extent on something like this, so that I'm not sure how this is going to go. I've never done a video like this before, trying to teach it all, or how I see the material after I interpret it in the psyche and bring it all through, to make it each step mentally interactive, that this is what it gets to, that this is what the material comes to, that it's not an easy path. There is no switches, there's no buttons, there's no drugs. They just make it okay. It wasn't very fast that we got this way. The brain takes a little while to change, but we have to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. So in summary, we're basically electrochemical memory devices that are this constant network that's growing based on our life experiences. We emerge, we show up with certain qualities that we, brain types, things like that. Sexual orientation. There's a variety in our DNA that we're all different. There's a point where we're all different at birth. However, our life experiences begin, and based on those life experiences, we diverge, and we can become many different things. And that we are products of where we came from. If that's not a good place, we want to heal. We need to understand that we simply have mental perceptions along the way from our life experiences that create our life as it is today. So we want to interact with those mental perceptions. They are emotionally painful. There is a hierarchy. We've got a higher self, the consciousness, which experiences everything, the inner being, with all of the memories in there and the perceptions of the memories, and then the flow of life that we're all working with. The flow of life is how we measure our success. The first four is what we work with. We use the higher self. Well, at first what happens is we live life. The conscious is in charge of just grabbing up information. I judge this, I judge that, I see this, I see that, I learn this, I learn that, and that's what we become. I hate this, I hate that, I'm ashamed of this. That is what we become. And the conscious is doing all of that. And life goes on that way for everybody. We're the person that is going, oh, I see that happen, and I don't want to have the experience that I'm on. I want to get off of this experience and get on a new path. Bingo. Here we are. And to do that, we're changing the perceptions. And to change the perceptions, what we have to do is understand that the conscious is going to not want to experience it. The higher being is going to have to allow the conscious have to understand that the higher being needs to be there, that there's a part of our perception that when we're feeling that past and going, I don't want to look at it, and put it away, the higher being has to be the one going, no, don't do that. Bring it out. We need to emerge it. The higher being is going to help the conscious go through the experience. And that needs to happen until that experience is no longer painful enough that we can't talk about it with somebody, until we're free of the burden of it. And that what we need to do is look at it repeatedly. There are other times where you've got something. I had issues where something was resolved. These get deeper layers. If you're farther along, you might have something like this. I can remember my wife a couple of years ago saying, you know what, you've got something is weird about you this time of year, some attitude problem or something like that. And she was right, but I was far enough along the way that I recognized a pattern, because she said this time every year, and I was like, really? This time of year, huh? I didn't even notice it. And it was the time of year, or the part of right around the time of year, right after my brother had hung himself as a child. He was 11, I was 9. There was an experience I had there that I've worked through my brother's death over and over and over again until I was okay with it. But something was still not right. I was like, man, I put that to rest. I'm okay with it. I don't know what my problem is. I don't know what the attitude problem is. And I began having memories of this time after his death where I was in Sunday school, and I was sent I just turned 10 years old about a month and a half after he died. And my Sunday school teacher, I was a grade below him, sent me downstairs to the basement class to Mr. Woodard's class, was his class, a grade above mine, to bring him a note or something. And they had a special surprise set up for me. I opened the door and they burst into happy birthday. I opened the door and I'm sitting there about ready to bawl. And when they got done, I said, "Are you just doing this because Larry died? Nobody ever did anything like that before." I bawled. He sends the kids off. He doesn't know what to do. I can remembering that situation and just bawling and thinking, yeah, I don't have this resolved yet. I did not remember that instant. I had to go back and realize these guys have no idea what to do. I just lost my brother. My birthday is there. They're trying to do something. They don't know what to do. They don't know that Mr. Potato Head and Cootie isn't going to make me feel better. But I can remember not having anything resolved at that time in life, never having counseling or anything like that. You're just some kid that I cut him down out of the tree. I tried to give him mouth to mouth. He threw up. I was never counseled. It was just you live your life not knowing what you did. All of that had to be addressed and still does. You see, if there's a little bit there, those are the things we have to go after until it's like, you know what? They did their best. They didn't know what to do. What would you do? What would you do? Would you have an answer? And you go, no. If I put myself in their shoes, I realize I'm okay. There was nobody doing it. It was just a bad time. That's it. Let it all go. Heal. Look at it until it's okay. That's where I am at this point with the material. I don't know what else to say with it. Clearly as you look at it, you realize that it is a very personal path. Nobody leads you on this. There's information. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. What does that mean? The path that can be described is not the real path. You can describe the path, but the path is not real until somebody says, all right, I'm going to take that academic knowledge and make it experiential. Only then does it become the real path. This is a personal path. It's not a preacher's path. It's entering into the narrow gate with the material. And understanding, looking at ourselves from a bigger perspective and then realizing, yeah, we're all hurt, aren't we? We all come from places where we need to kind of understand that. We need to understand each other. We need to understand ourselves, how and where we came about, what's happening as a result, and how we can communicate with each other in ways to ease those feelings that we have put away, to emerge them until they don't hurt us anymore. I remember a movie line. I don't remember where it came from. Something about the skeletons in the closet. And someone asked, did you ever get rid of them? And he said, no, but I made friends with them. That's it. We got skeletons in the closet. You can't get rid of them, but you got to make friends with them. We have memories of events that have happened, and it's the way that we hold them that are hurting us. And we have to change. If we want to change our life, we have to change the way we hold them. And that's difficult because people are hurt. So then it becomes, we need to employ this idea then that we step outside of that and realize that we're emergent from an animal kingdom and that we're trying to rise above that. We need to somehow find ways of separating ourselves from the responsibility of what happened, because at some point we weren't. We're trying to take responsibility now. We have to find ways of letting us and everybody else off the hook. Also remembering, this is very important, that the level of fear that we feel for what we're holding inside is based in the idea that we're going to get eaten by another animal. It is that intense. That's the body's evolved mechanism to let us know we don't feel good. It's over the top. In fact, we know it is. It is why most people will never do it. It takes too much courage to think of everything in our past until it doesn't hurt anymore. And as long as we think about it and it hurts, it's not going to change. We're not doing the right thing. We have to think about it in a way to make it heal and change it. And then it will stop acting out under its current state. Whatever it is what continues to act out. So the only way to keep it from acting out is to change what it is, or just accept life the way it is and know it's not going to change. That's going to act out whenever it gets triggered. And I can never resist to add at least one verse from somewhere. This is Lao Tzu from the Tao Te Ching, verse 33, just the first half. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. All right. Hey, questions or comments, ideas. Yeah, whatever we can do. I think if we had somehow a group of people that we could get together and communicate or something like that, talk things out, people of the right mind, this stuff could go much quicker. In a day and age back then, they would have known each other and who was on board with this, and they could get together and talk with each other one-on-one. We don't have that option. We're working with some things here that's like, I think we're stuck in a couple of places. We need to find workarounds. Van creating the Discord server has allowed us to, we've been able to have private chats sometimes and just help, unload a little bit. It's a good place to try to make those kind of connections that we don't have that they had. So our life is different. They had small communities, but they were close knit. We have we can attach everywhere, but we're not close knit. We're far away. We're trying to bridge those connections, or those gaps rather. Shorten those connections. Something, blah, blah. Okay. Questions, comments, ideas. If you have any ideas, this is psychology. It's self-imposed psychology, but it's knowing why and where and going, yeah, let's put some practice to it. We need to get out of ourselves and use the higher self, out of our conscious self, having our inner experiences, and use the higher self to when we're not paying attention, our inner being is what we're living through. If what we're living through is not okay, we have to stop and change what is here so that continues to, or doesn't continue to emerge that way. It changes the way our life is. So we make a change here, then see what happens in life. Still not okay. Or make a change this. Life continually becomes the measuring tool for how successful we are, the quality of life. And those are going to be difficult for people because of different situations. Not everybody's going to be able to just say, I'm leaving this behind. You might be in a place where if I leave this behind, I no longer have food or shelter. You have to make different decisions. This is going to be tough. And it's going to be very individual. And to the degree that each person does it will be based on their own choice. I'll post a link to the Discord server below and to the first of these videos. Hope it was helpful. And I'd love to hear from anybody about other ideas. Yeah, this is good to get out there. I haven't done this before. I don't know how it's going to go. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.